All right, today we're jumping into a tool that is, and I'm not exaggerating here, the absolute backbone of modern software development, Jenkins. If you've ever heard the term CI/CD tossed around, well, Jenkins is usually the engine making it all happen. So let's break it down. I mean, just think about it for a second. What if you could write some code, push it up, and then just move on with your day? No more tedious manual compiling, no more mind-numbing testing, and definitely no more sweating through a deployment process. What if all of that just happened? Sounds like a dream, right? Well, that's exactly the problem Jenkins was built to solve. So what is it? The best way to think of Jenkins is like a robot butler for your entire development team. Its one and only job is to take all those repetitive, boring, and error-prone tasks, building, testing, deploying, and just do them for you, automatically. It's the powerhouse that drives your whole workflow. And the thing about Jenkins is, it's incredibly powerful. It's the heart of your CI/CD pipeline, and it can connect to pretty much any tool you can think of through this massive ecosystem of plugins. Plus, you set everything up through a super easy-to-use web page, it keeps a detailed history of every single build, and it can even share the workload across a bunch of different machines. It's awesome. So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to tackle the why. What in the world is CI/CD anyway? Then we'll get our hands dirty with the setup, create our first few automated tasks, connect it all to the real world with GitHub, and finally, we'll build in a safety net with automated alerts. Let's do it. First things first, let's get our heads around the big idea here. What exactly is this CI/CD thing? Because it's really the whole philosophy that Jenkins helps you bring to life. Okay, this is really important. You have to know the difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment. They sound similar, but there's a key difference. With both, your code is automatically built and tested every time there's a change. Now, with continuous delivery, the code is made totally ready for production, but a human still has to click the final go button. With continuous deployment, though, if the code passes all the automated tests, boom, it goes straight out to your users. No human intervention needed. It's a small difference in name, but a huge difference in practice. All right, that's enough theory for now. Let's see how this thing actually works. It's time to get Jenkins installed and fired up. Getting Jenkins installed follows a few pretty standard steps. First, you've got to make sure you have Java installed. Jenkins runs on it. Then, you'll add the official Jenkins software repository so your system knows where to find it. After that, you just use your system's package manager to install it, you start the service, and the last step, don't forget this one, is to open up port 8080 on your firewall so you can actually get to the web page. And once all that's done, you just open up a web browser, type in your server's IP address, followed by a colon and 8080, and voila! You should be looking right at the Jenkins dashboard. Now, the very first time you visit that page, you'll hit a quick little setup wizard. It's going to ask you for an initial admin password. You'll just have to grab that from a file on the server to unlock it. Then it'll ask about plugins. My advice? Just install the recommended ones. It's a fantastic starting point. After that, you create your own admin account so you can ditch that temporary password and you're in. You're ready to go. Okay, now for the really fun part, making Jenkins actually do stuff. And in the world of Jenkins, everything you automate is called a job. These are the basic building blocks. We're going to start out super simple with something called a freestyle job. Just think of this as a blank canvas. It's the most flexible type of job, and it lets us tell Jenkins to run pretty much any command we can think of. It's perfect for our first Hello World test run. Oh, and this is one of my favorite little features. The Jenkins dashboard gives you this weather report for every single job. If all your recent builds have been passing, you get a little sun icon. If they've been failing, you get storm clouds. It's such a brilliant at-a-glance way to see how healthy your projects are. So, when it comes to actually running these jobs, you've got options. You can always kick them off manually just by clicking the Build Now button, which is great for one-off tasks. Or you can set up a schedule, kind of like a cron job, and have Jenkins run it for you automatically, say every night at midnight or every single hour. But what if you need a job to be a bit more flexible? Well, that's where parameters come in. This is a super powerful feature that lets you design jobs that ask for your input right when you run them. So, for example, you could have it ask which version to build or which server to deploy to. It makes your automation way more powerful and reusable. Okay, we've got the basics down. Now it's time to do something real. Let's connect Jenkins to a tool that pretty much every developer on the planet uses, GitHub. This is where we start to build a true continuous integration workflow. So just picture this workflow. A developer on your team pushes some new code to GitHub. Jenkins, which is always watching that repository, sees the new commit. It immediately pulls down the latest code, and then it runs whatever build and test script you told it to. This is automation in action, and it's how you catch bugs literally seconds after they're created, not weeks later when they're in front of a customer. And setting this up in Jenkins, it's really straightforward. You just have to fill in a few key fields in your job configuration. You tell Jenkins you're using Git for source code management, and you give it the URL to your repository. For the trigger, you'll choose poll SCM, which just tells it to check for changes automatically. And finally, in the build step, you just tell it what command to run. That's really all it takes to link your code directly to your automation.
Okay, our automated build system is in place. It's humming along. But we are missing one absolutely critical piece of the puzzle. What happens when things go wrong? We need a system that can watch itself and tell us when there's a problem.
So let's go back to our scenario. A developer pushes new code, Jenkins dutifully pulls it and tries to build it, but this time, the build fails. The new code is broken. Now, if nobody happens to be staring at the Jenkins dashboard, how would anyone even know? This right here is why notifications are a total game changer. Before you set them up, a broken build could just fail silently. The developer who wrote the code has no idea there's even a problem. But after you set up alerts, the second a build breaks, an email is instantly shot out to the team. They find out immediately and can jump on the fix. And honestly, setting this up is a breeze. First, you just configure your email server settings in the main Manage Jenkins section. Then you go into your job, add what's called a post-build action, and choose email notification. You just pop in the email addresses of whoever needs to know, and that is it. Jenkins now has a complete feedback loop. So what's the end result of all this? We've built a complete, end-to-end automated workflow. A developer commits code, and Jenkins takes care of everything else: the build, the tests, the notifications, and even getting everything ready for a one-click deployment. This isn't just about making things easier. It's about speed, it's about quality, and it's about giving your developers more time to do what they do best: innovate. This is the real power of CI/CD. We've really just scratched the surface today. You've seen how to build a foundational CI workflow from the ground up. So the real question to leave you with is, now that you know how to do this, what other repetitive tasks in your day-to-day work are just sitting there, waiting to be automated?